recording. Okay, so number 9 under Rule 1, it says an X marking where substitutes should wait to be beckoned into the game should be located no closer than 5 feet away from the end of each team's bench. And that's false. It needs to be right in front of the scorekeeper. That's where it belongs. And it helps the scorekeeper know that they're subs. It helps us to know that they're subs. And again, remember, when you start working games and you're working rec games or youth games, they might not have all these things. So just kind of go with the flow and see what you can do with what you have. Once you start doing school games, it should be more standard, and you should be seeing these things. And if you don't, you can have people put masking tape down or some kind of tape down to help you out. Okay. Did anybody else have any questions about quiz 1 that you wanted me to answer? Okay, quiz 2. I'm going through really quickly. Okay, number 3. It says prior to the game, when the referee is checking the scorebook, the umpire is responsible for verifying with both head coaches that their team members' uniforms are legal and will be worn properly, and that all participants will exhibit sporting behavior throughout the contest. And that is that is false, excuse me, but most of you said it was true. So this is, if you look at according to Rule 245, this responsibility to verify with coaches is the referee's responsibility. In actuality, both refs normally go over for that little quick talk, but you don't do it like one referee doesn't check at the table and the other one talk to the coaches. The person that's going to toss the ball goes to the table and checks the book and all that stuff. And then later on, both referee and umpire go to both coaches and verify that uniforms are right and people are going to have sporting behavior and stuff like that. Okay.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So who now? Are we assigned who's going to be the referee and umpire? Or are you going to let us know that?
No, you guys just figure it out. And until you start doing like varsity games where John will assign a referee,
Gotcha.
the crew just figures it out. And I'll tell you right now that whenever I work with somebody who's newer, I make them the referee because the referee tosses the ball and it gives you a little bit of credibility out there. So,
Okay.
So be prepared to do a lot of ball tossing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, another one that half of you got wrong. Team B's head coach asks the referee to overrule a basket interference decision made by the umpire. Because the referee has definite knowledge that no interference occurred on the play in question, he may reverse the umpire's ruling. So before I answer the question, I'm going to tell you that nobody can overrule another referee's or umpire's judgment call. And basket interference is a judgment call. So if it's made, it's made, and it doesn't matter if the referee is supposedly the senior ref. That has no bearing. Okay, if it's not a judgment call, if it's something more black and white, then the two officials can talk and figure out what the right answer is. But in this case, what do you say to the head coach? They saw it clearly. They were closer. It was their call. You say something, but you can't overturn it. Okay. Okay. Oh, another one that a lot of you got wrong. After correcting an error.
Stacy, are you saying if they agree, if both, you can overturn it if both are agree to, or it's just once it's done, it's done?
If it's a judgment call and it's not a black and white, like, sometimes, like I think I told you this the other day, when there's a lot of lines on the floor and, you calling over and back and you realize it was the wrong line, you can change that because that's not a judgment call, right? But if it's a judgment call, you're not going to if you want to overturn it yourself as the calling official, you can, but you're not going to have very much believability by the coaches.
Okay.
But if anybody's going to overturn it, it's going to be, it's not going to be the other ref. Okay. Are you good with that? Suzanne, if you want to jump in on any of these, feel free. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So another one. Who just signed in? I thought we got a new face here. Maybe not. Okay. So after correcting an error, the ball is always put in play at the point of interruption. So most everybody got this one wrong. The answer is false. And this is the whole correctable error thing, which is, it takes a while for you, or it took a while for me to kind of sort my brain out about when can you, what's the time period for a correctable error and how do you fix it and so forth. The reason why this is false is because from time to time, you're going to have, if let's say a team was supposed to shoot at 1-1 and they got the ball out of bounds. And then the referees are getting ready to shoot free throws. And all of a sudden one of them realizes, oh shoot, this should be a 1-1, or the table tells them this should be a 1-1, right? Since there wasn't any change of possession in that instance, we're gonna shoot the free throws and then just play on. Okay. Now, if the same situation happened, but well, the team that should have been shooting free throws gets the ball in bounds and makes a basket. Okay, so now there's a change of possession, right? The other team has the ball, but the referees figure out that it should have been a 1-1, right? So it's not fair to just put that team on the free throw. They've already scored a basket. Now you're going to put them on the free throw line, and what you're going to, you don't want to give them the ball again, right? So in that instance, since there was a change of possession, you put them on the free throw line with no other players, and then the other team's going to take the ball out of bounds. And run the ball as if a basket was just made. Okay, so we could talk about correctable errors and get our heads all spun around in 17 directions. I don't want to dwell on it, but
Good, because that's confusing.
it is confusing. And what my suggestion to you and what helped me a lot is to go in the case book. There's about 12 or 15 examples of correctable errors and how you fix them. And after you read through those, you kind of start getting the feel for what's correct and what's not correct. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think there was one more in this section. Yes. If disqualified player B1 is still playing, the timer may sound the horn while A1 is holding the ball. So a team B player is disqualified, but the table doesn't tell us. And now the opposite team has the ball. Okay. You're not supposed to sound the horn in that situation. What you need to do is wait until either the team with that disqualified player has the ball or there's a dead ball. Okay.
So you let the disqualified player continue to play?
As long as if the other team has the ball.
Okay.
You don't want to stop a potential play or a play at the basket or whatever just because they're the wrong kids on the floor.
Even if they're in the backcourt?
The rules say that if the team that you can't do it unless there's a dead ball or the team with this disqualified player has the ball. Okay. Because they're not going to score any points while the other team has the ball. And once they get the ball, you're going to blow the horn and take them out.
Got you.
Okay. So if they score points while they're in there before you realize that they should be out of there, those all count, everything counts. So this is really on us. We need to pay attention to the scoreboard if they're keeping the fouls up there, or talk to the table once in a while and figure out how many fouls so that we don't get surprised like that. Okay.
Got you.
And then another question that ties in with this one, a lot of you got wrong. Points scored by a player who was disqualified but still playing shall be nullified. That's false. Points are points and they score. Okay. And I think on the quiz 4, most of you did really well. There was only a couple that maybe one person got wrong. Let me just look through it really fast. There's actually the only one that half of you got wrong was the one about kicking. It is kicking the ball if the ball strikes any part of the leg. And half of you said true, half said false. It's false because it has to be intentionally kicked, not just kicked. So if a player uses their leg intentionally, any part of their leg to kick the ball, then that's a violation. But if their leg just happens to be there and the ball hits it, that's nothing. Okay. So please, 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 try to catch up on those quizzes 1, 2, and 4. And of course, next week, 9, 3, and 5 are going to be due. So don't get yourself in too much of a.
I thought kickball violation was like, I know that if they intentionally do it, it's a violation. And then I thought it was if their foot is off the ground at all and it hits their foot. Or am I wrong?
You're incorrect on that. When your foot can be, there's no requirement to be off the floor, on the floor, or anything like that. If a player moves and intentionally gets their leg in the way of the ball and hits the ball, then it's a violation. Okay.
Yeah, one thing that I look for in a kickball is the momentum of the foot. Is the foot going from backwards to forward, and does it connect with the ball? So it's got to be obvious that it's actually kicked. But if someone's standing there and the ball bounces off their feet and goes the other direction, that's not a kickball. So just and same thing if it hits the thigh, the forward momentum of the thigh, if it's moving forward in the ball and it shoots it somewhere else, I call that a kickball, but that doesn't happen very often.
Good questions, you guys. Keep asking them. And when you go through the quizzes, if you don't understand something, you don't have to wait till the next class. You can just shoot me an email and I'll try to answer your question. Okay. Okay. So we've gone too long on this already. So I'm going to pass this back to Suzanne and she's going to talk a little bit about some new rules. You can share the screen, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's all yours, Suzanne.
Okay. So one of the things that we always say in basketball is you never take points off the board. So I wanted to add that in. Okay. So welcome everybody. Let me get my other screen here. Welcome apprentices. I'm so glad that you're here. You want to be a part of the basketball officiating community. I've been a basketball official for 28 years. I started in 1992 and I still love it. I've fallen a number of times, so it's been an interesting career, but I love it. I referee both boys and girls basketball and have probably known Stacy just about as long as I've been refereeing basketball. So you'll find that the basketball community is really kind of like a family. So it's lots of fun. So that's me. I've been to several state tournaments, boys and girls. So I really, try to stress the points of all the, the mechanics and doing a good job and being able to learn how to communicate with coaches and players at the same time, because it can be a challenge with a player and it can be a challenge with a coach. So lots of fun and it keeps you inspired to stay in shape. So we're going to talk about Rule 3 right now, players, substitutions, and equipment. So it's pretty basic. We got the team, we got the captain, roster, starters, numbers, substitutions, uniforms, team members, equipment and apparel, logo, trademark, and references for that, and safety concerns. So one of the things that I do when I'm standing out there at a game, I always look on the border of my court. Is there anything that a player could go out of bounds and hit their head or fall or hurt themselves? If there is, I try to move those away. So, one of the things that when you first get out on a court, you always think of safety. And mouth guards, if players are using those, those are completely legal. So section 1 regarding the team and the captain, each player consists of 5 players, one of whom is the captain. And they say that the captain's always going to be out.
We lost you, Suzanne.
Yeah, what happened?
Let me send her a text. I don't know if she knows that.
No.
Are you with us?
Yep.
Okay, you froze for a second.
Oh yeah, it says my internet is unstable. I should have plugged in my cable. Sorry, I usually plug in my Ethernet cable because the web is usually unstable. I mean, you never know who's all using the internet at the same time. So I'm going to try to, can you see me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So, you know, team and captain, you know, we have 5 players and we got a captain. And there's times where we might not have a captain out on the court, but if we end up to where we need to have one, we can ask who's the captain and the coach can tell us. But that doesn't necessarily become a problem. It never has for me, so it's no big deal. The 5 players on the court is, so roster starters and numbers, you got to make sure, I know you're going to start out with AAU, you know, small children. So we like, and it's usually game after game. So first thing I usually do is go check, you know, do you have your players in the book? Let's get those started, make sure they're communicating. But when you're doing a high school game, we want all the players to be in the book, or at least a list of the players that the scorekeeper has next to them. So it's not required that they're in the book, but it's required that they have a list of the players and the numbers that are going to be starting and the designated 5 players. So if they don't have them in, if the team and the designated starters aren't presented to the scorekeeper, it can be a technical foul, or it is a technical foul. So I always try.
How much time do they have?
Usually when teams, when you go do high school, they're out there for 15 minutes. So when you're in a high school game, they got 5 minutes to get the list. So if it's 12 minutes and I go over there and check the book and there's no players, I grab the book and I go over to both coaches and say, I need your players now. And, you know, just be firm and they'll get them for you, or they'll get you a book that has the list of players. So, or a piece of paper. So just, it's good communication to make sure, number one, you know, do you have all the first, when you do the AAU stuff, go over there and say, okay, you got your players, just check in, and then usually you're good. But in a high school game, there's a official scorekeeper, so you can check with them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Suzanne, I'm going to jump in real quick. So in the high school games, the names have to be at the table by the 10-minute mark. And if they're not by the 10-minute mark, that's a technical foul. Okay. Now, if they're in by 9:59, use your judgment. Okay. Yeah. That shouldn't, don't be that good. For the AAU stuff, the 10-minute thing, you'll be lucky if they're in the book by the time the game starts. And that's, you just have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
So, and then substitutions. So substitute who desires to enter and shall report to the scorer, giving his or her number. So, you know, a substitute comes up and hopefully there's an X, there may not be. I'd like to sub in, and the scorekeeper says, okay, so they wait there until they're beckoned. So substitutions can come in between quarters, halftime, during a timeout, and you just need to be in position. You need to be reporting that you're going to sub at least 15 seconds before the end of the intermission. So first horn before the end of the timeout, they better be there or they got to wait. And it's just, you know what, when we see someone come in past that horn, I'm sorry, you're late. You need to wait till the first opportunity for a substitution. And usually it doesn't happen again because they want their players in. So as far as shooting free throws, and you have substitutions, if you're shooting 2 shots, then you shoot the first one and then you bring your sub in. And if it's a 1-on-1, after the first shot, you can bring your subs in at that point. So you should always hear a sounding horn. That doesn't happen usually on your AAU games, but in high school, and it may not happen at the JV level, but they try their best to get most of them. So usually if there's a dead ball and we got a sub, they'll give us a horn. And then we can turn, recognize there's a sub in please, and beckon them in. So if you might see this with little kids where a captain requests a matchup of 3 or more subs. So if there's a whole team coming in and they're little kids, even big kids though, they can do that. They can say, okay, we want to match up. So you give them an opportunity to match up and say, all right, let's go. Just keep them moving, right?
I've never had that happen, just so you know.
Yeah, I have with little kids, but not big kids. So when you have a substitution, they always have to remain outside the borders of the court. So they need to stay there until the official beckons them on the court. And then once they're on the court, they become a player. And if we have a substitute for a player leaves, the player that leaves must remain out on the sideline at their bench until a tick off the clock. So if you have shooting free throws, they shoot the first one, we get a sub, that guy goes out or girl sits down, and then you shoot the second one and they go sub and they try to bring that player in. You got, no, sorry, you got to wait for one tick off the clock. So I hate when that happens, but they try to sneak it in every once in a while. And then you have to have the uniform properly to enter the court. So if the shirt's out, tuck your shirt in. Or if they take too long and they stand there and look at you, just say, hold on, just wait, and I'll bring you in the next time. And I swear they'll come up next time with their shirt tucked in. An injured player where a coach comes out on the court, the player must leave the game. But if the coach wants to call a timeout, they can bring the player back in. So it's just up to the coach. If they want to keep their player in the game, they can call a timeout. And I usually don't ask coaches if they want a timeout. But, you know, sometimes they look at me with the long dazed look. I might say, would you like a timeout? So you really got to play it by ear. And then if a player is bleeding, they got to leave the game until they can get it covered. These days, you know, I know in college, don't they stop the game, Stacy, and then they can put a Band-Aid on and they start it again? Isn't that how they do it in college? Yeah. See, but in high school, they encourage people to leave the game to get it addressed, and then they can come back out.
Well, what if the player that's bleeding is say a shooter, or the shooter at the free throw line, or then do you stop the game and bandage him and let him shoot the free throws?
Yeah, if you have a bleeding player that is going to be the shooter, the sub can come in and shoot the shots, or if the coach wants to call a timeout, they can call a timeout and address the wounds during the timeout and then bring the player in when we're ready to shoot the free throws. So
Okay, so if the player is bleeding shooting free throws and he's not a very good free throw, they can put their best free throw shooter, anybody?
Yep, they can.
Okay.
Anybody can sub that player.
Gotcha.
So they generally pick their best shooter and send them in.
All right.
Good question. So uniforms, team jersey color and design shall adhere to the rules. So a single solid color for all team members. The torso color white for home, dark for
Suzanne,
visitor.
we can't see the words on the screen. You're like halfway across in your presentation.
Okay.
You need to kind of scooch it all the way across because you're saying I know these words should be there, but they're not showing up.
Can you see them now?
No.
Oh, that's weird. Interesting.
You can back up a page and then maybe try to go forward a page again.
Okay. Interesting. It should show the whole tab.
I know it should, but it's not.
Oh.
It's like you have this presentation where the pages are like sliding across, and this one only slid across 2/3 of the way.
Okay, let me stop sharing and I'll bring it back in. Hold on.
Thank you. Hey, Jonathan, where's Blaze tonight?
He has school sports
I got it. Okay.
at school.
All right, can you see it there?
Not yet.
I'll have
No?
him follow up with the recording.
Okay, perfect. No, it just says you've started screen sharing, but it hasn't shown up yet. Of all the people in the world, I would expect you to have the best internet connection.
Well, I have the highest speed, so.
Miss Techno.
Can you see it now?
No.
What's going on? I wonder. Yeah, weird.
None of you guys can see it, right? I'm not the only one.
No,
No. That is odd. Do you need to close it up entirely and then try to reshare it?
Yeah, I just tried. Can you see it now?
No.
What is going on with Oh, my goodness.
You know, I can see if I have this, your talk from before, and maybe I could run through it as you talk. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, that's so weird.
Um, I have, I think in my Google Drive.
Yep, that's where it is.
Sorry, guys.
You can't see it, huh?
Let's see here. Okay. Open with. How the heck? Okay. Let me go. I'm almost there.
We're on slide 7. I don't
Okay.
know why it's not
So
letting
you
me.
need to stop your sharing.
Yeah, I did.
I need to start share screen. Boom, boom. And now I'm going to go to here. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Wow, it's so strange. Mine wasn't working. So 7, slide 7.
I like that phrase. You need to stop your sharing. I'm going to start using that on basis whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah, I was talking to some kids. I work for Google. I'm a test engineer, and that's why Stacy's giving me trouble. But you know, I left my phone. I'm like, hold that thought. I'll be right back. So there's all kinds of
I
things.
think this is where we were.
Yep, that's right. So uniforms, you know, you just need to make sure one's dark and one's white. So a lot of times coaches can't understand why that is. And I'm like, do you know anybody who's colorblind? Okay, so there you go. That's why we have dark and white. So logos, flags, and patches must adhere to restrictions. So 2 1/4 square inches. So I usually try to look at it and say, yeah, that's, if it's close enough, I'm okay with it. But if it's like big and I'm like, no, that's way bigger than 3 1/4, you need to take that off. Or if it's like a wristband, I just tell them flip it over, you know, so that I don't see it. And then numbers shall adhere to restrictions for numbers. So if you have a team who has 2 00s, work with them with recreation, because maybe they can put tape over it. You know, we're not with rec and even JV, you'll see that. Just make it so at least there's one player that's maybe 0 and the other that's 00, because when you get into the varsity leagues, then all the numbers are correctly set usually. Maybe you might have a small school that isn't, but for the most part it is. Go ahead and flip it to the next one, Stace.
I forgot I was running things. Okay.
So, so team members, equipment, and apparel, the referee shall not permit any team member to wear equipment or apparel which is his or her judgment that is dangerous. Sometimes, not so much now, but in my younger days, I'd usually, if I seen a kid that had a brace on their leg with a lot of metal showing, I'd go over there and say, excuse me, can I check your brace, you know, and ask for permission. Because if it's something that can cut someone, they got to cover it. But mostly all the devices that student athletes wear are really good quality cast, or not cast, but braces for their legs. So you usually don't have to run into that anymore, but early on we did. And then if they have a cast, they can't play if they have a cast. That's just, no, you can't do it. So you need to make sure that, you know, what they're wearing is legal. So arm sleeves, knee sleeves, lower leg sleeves, compression shorts and tights are permissible. So you got to look at those, the braces at a different light than the sleeves, tights being the black, white, and beige. So if you have a team wearing white tights, but you have a player with a black brace, that's okay. So just know that Sleeves and tights, they need to be all the same color. So sleeves white, tights white. Sleeves black, tights black. So if teams' colors are all orange, then they can wear orange tights and orange sleeve, or they use the predominant colors, which is black, white, and beige. So pretty blank, pretty easy when you look at the basic colors that they're allowed. They just need to all be wearing the same colors. And the wristbands, headwear also needs to meet the guidelines. So there's some schools, well, I just say there's some players that wear, in girls' side, that wear these big beads, and they can't play if they have these big beads in their hair. So you just need to catch that early on when they're practicing or warming up, so that they have time to address it. Go ahead with the next slide, Stace.
Okay, the one thing I want to say about that is if a player is wearing some kind of, oops, let me go back, some kind of religious affiliated something, a scar, a head covering, or don't, just make a mental note of it. Don't go in there because, and people could accuse you of being discriminatory about the religion and stuff like that. Just let it go and let the assigner know that happened, just so that, he can pass the word on to the rest of the association. Okay.
Yeah, generally they, I think at least they used to have to ask the WIAA for a special, permission to do that. But I don't know if I don't think they do that so much anymore.
Yeah.
But so you have a question?
No jewelry of any kind, earring, no jewelry of any kind.
No jewelry, yeah. So, yeah, so we'll get into that. So I thought we talked about that. So it should be later, but yeah, no jewelry. We don't ask them to stick out their tongue to see if they have a tongue ring, but if we see that there is one, then we have to ask them to take it out. So, but as far as jewelry, yeah, no bracelets, unless it's a health and safety bracelet, like they have some kind of issue that if something would happen during the game, then we would know how to address it quickly. So scoring and timing regulations, goal, scoring, winning team, forfeit, protest, interrupted game, length of quarter, beginning, ending of a quarter or extra period. So go ahead to the next page, Stace.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
What are the rules around like diabetic patches?
I don't think anybody would ask you about a diabetic patch, because everybody's going to know that, it's not like something that you put there to like say, call out a certain number or something. We'll know that it's a health benefit, or a health reason for that. Because we got to adjust as technology improves and we are able to wear tape like that for a diabetic. That's awesome. Just gives more people freedom to do those things. So good question. Thank you. So the extra period, timeout, stopping play, restarting the clock, timing mistakes, and charge timeouts. So section 1 goal. Oh.
All right.
So you want to make sure that a goal is made when a live ball enters the basket from above and remains and passes through. So sometimes you'll see a game ball go through the bottom. They always have to go through the top to score 2 points. And an untouched basketball, if you inbounds a pass and it hits the backboard and goes through the basket, that doesn't count. That's illegal. And then whether the clock is running or stop has no influence on counting the goal. So if we have a shot, ball's in the air, whistle, horn, ball's still live until it hits that backboard or goes through that hoop. Go ahead to the next page. So scoring, successful tap or try from behind the successful tap, try, tap, or thrown ball from behind the team's own 19 foot 9 inches counts for 3 points. So as long as they're behind that 3-point arc, 3 points, score it. And then a free throw, 1 point. And then if you score the basket in the wrong, score a basket in the wrong team, it doesn't go on your team's points, it goes on the other team, so. But you just don't apply it to any player's point total. And then the only infractions for which points are awarded are goaltending by the defense or basket interference. So if you see the balls coming down and they hit it out, that's goaltending. If you see the ball up above the hoop and they try to grab it or go through the bottom, that's basket interference as well. So those are things that you'll see. Well, even kids now, they're young and they're still getting really super tall. So you may see that, but it's usually when you get to the varsity level. And then 3.3 on the clock, a player cannot gain control. So they can't just catch the ball and then shoot. They have to tap it in. So that's for a try for a goal. So you can always look at the clock. If there's 0.3, you know, there's no way they're going to make it if they grab it and hold the ball.
I have a
Because
question. If it's, can they tap at any point, any time remaining? If it's 0.1, are there no limitations then? If they tap it in, they tap it in.
yeah, that's right. So if the clock is still live, they can tap it, and if it goes in, they count it.
Okay.
You bet. So a winning team is the one who accumulated the greater number of points. So a forfeit on a game is if a team refuses to play, or a coach is removed and nobody's there to replace them, or a player makes a travesty of the game by not complying with the request, then, you know, there's times where you may have to forfeit. But honestly, I think I may have had one forfeit in my entire career. So you generally don't see that. Maybe if a team doesn't show up, then it's, you score the game 2-0 for the team winning or the team present. And then protests are allowed in Washington. And you'll see that in high school level where, you know, coach will say, I'd like to protest this call, and then they have to mark it in the book. So go ahead to the next page, Stace. And then if there's a forfeit or a protest or interrupted game, if the team to which the game is forfeited is ahead, that's where I was saying you score the game 2-0. Or whenever a game is interrupted, and like, let's say, like we had the earthquake and we had to stop the games that day. You stop the game, you mark in the book, make sure they put the time on the clock, what quarter it was, and what the points are. So then if this game is rescheduled, then you can come again to the gym, both teams, you mark the clock on what's on the clock, the number of fouls, the minutes, and what quarter, and you just start from there and finish it. That happens. I personally haven't had that happen, but it does happen. And then every quarter is 8 minutes. When you work with the little kids, it's usually 6 minutes, I believe. And then 1 minute in between quarters, and then halftime is 10 minutes. That's a school game. They may extend it to 15 minutes. That's usually like senior night, or, you know, they're doing something really special. When you're doing kids at an AAU, they might just do 5 minutes. So you can ask them, how much time do we get at halftime? And generally they say 5 minutes. So make sure you use the restroom, drink your water, take that opportunity to keep hydrated. And then quarters can be shortened in an emergency. So, but both coaches usually want to make them agree to it. All right, that's good. So the beginning, ending of a quarter or extra period. So extra quarter or extra period begins when the ball is live. So if you have, you know, quarter, tweet, give them the ball. Once they inbound the ball and a player hits it, that's when you start the clock. Each quarter extra or extra period ends with a signal. So you'll hear a timer, you know, a horn sounding the horn. So usually it's pretty common where we see a horn, but sometimes it isn't, and they'll blow something, throw a towel or something, but most commonly you'll hear a signal. And then technical fouls, if you have tie game, well, I guess I could say, this says extra period. So tie game, a player, I'd had a player do this in the AAU. He throws the ball at me really mad, and I teed him. And then the other coach goes, well, do we shoot him now? I said, no, you start the extra period, then you line them up and you shoot the 2 shots. No, actually you wouldn't line them up because the same team would get the ball back. So you shoot the 2 shots and then you give the ball back at center court and then you play on. So any,
Is the reason why you do it that way because if you shot them before the period starts, they would actually win?
yeah, so that what my example was is that all 4 quarters time has expired. And the kid does that really, I mean, he was being mean to me and I just thought, you know what? I don't want that. So I teed him and then we started the extra period with the shots, the 2 shots and then the ball out on the sideline. And then extra periods are 4 minutes. So go ahead, Stacy. So timeout and stopping play. Every quarter starts when the ball is live. So they got the ball out of bounds, they toss it in, it's hit by a player or touched by a player, start the clock. That's when the clock starts. Stop ball is on our whistle, tweet. Held ball, once they're hanging on to it and it's, no one's letting go, blow your whistle, violation, hand up in the air. And same thing with the timeout. Coach, if let's just say offensive team has the ball, coach, timeout, tweet, timeout, white coach. So you just need to make sure that the team requesting the timeout is the team that has possession of the ball. And if the ball's all going all over the court, no one's touching it, no one can call a timeout. So you just need to understand when you can call a timeout. Be aware. Let's see, unusual delay in getting a dead ball live. There's different reasons why that could happen, maybe a conversation with the coach, but it goes pretty quickly. If you see a injured player on the court, we can stop play there. If I see a player go down, bam, they hit their head really hard, I'll blow my whistle. I don't care what's going on because if someone hit their head and they're knocked out, I want attention, medical attention right then. But a lot of people would just let the player sit there. Someone watches them and lets the play finish to go to the other basket. And if the basket's made, blow your whistle, and then we attend to the injured player. So everybody's got their level of when you stop the game for an injured player. And different levels are different things. Stacy could probably tell you a little bit about college and what they do there. Timeouts can be requested by a player or head coach, but remember they have to have the ball. Unless it's in between intermissions, or if it's an intermission, then either team can call a timeout. So restarting the clock after time has been out, clock is started when the official signals the clock to start. So arm up, chop, clock starts. Jump ball, missed free throw, throw in and legally touched. Missed free throw, that's a live ball. Throw in when legally touched, that's a live ball. Go ahead. So timing mistakes. A referee may correct an obvious mistake on the timer to start or stop the clock properly. So let's say we're refereeing and 20 seconds has gone by and the clock hasn't started. We can tweet, stop the clock, and then go tell them, please take 20 seconds off, you didn't start the clock. And then have a conversation, doesn't need to be mean, just say, hey, we really need your help, to keep this game moving. We got mini games coming, we just got to keep it on time. So please help us with this. So, that always helps a little bit and coaxing them into paying attention. So charge timeouts, you get 360 and 230s. And then you get an additional timeout for extra periods. So if there's 2 timeouts from the full regulation game of 4 quarters, those carry over in the extra period, in addition to the extra 60-second timeout. And I guess it can be either or, it just depends on the coach what they want to use, a full or a 30, but it is a full. Warning signal, same thing, 15 seconds. Sub's got to be up there before you before that 15 seconds. So Yeah, so the game has got to be started first. So first second off the clock or whatever, then you can call timeouts. Okay, go back one.
I think I just did.
There you go.
That's the one we just
Oh,
finished.
no, okay, go ahead. Sorry. Okay, so charge timeout, 0 timeouts, coach requests a timeout. So whenever a coach is done with their timeouts, I always go over to a coach and say, no more timeouts, because at least we warned them, right? Not everybody does that. It's just, you know, when you start working with coaches and you do things like that, they tend to like you on the next game showing up. So, but if a coach knows you told them no timeouts, timeout, tweet, timeout white. And then you give him the timeout, but you got to tell him it's a technical foul because he had no timeouts remaining. So that's why I always like to talk to coaches and make sure that they know there's 0 timeouts. Simultaneous timeouts, they might, 2 coaches might want a timeout at the same time. You could do one after the other. Or even the same team can have 2 timeouts, full timeout and a 30-second timeout. So successful timeouts are granted. And they're executed in the order that they were requested. Okay, so violations and penalties.
There we go.
So free throw provisions, throw in provisions, out of bounds, travel, kick, fist, ball enters basket from below. We just talked about that earlier. Illegal dribble and jump ball. So I put a couple of videos there, but we can see if we have time. Go ahead to the next one.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit ahead of you. Let me go back here.
Because it's already 6:54. Is that what you're, yeah. So.
You can run over a little bit. I did last week and nobody complained.
So go ahead and go to the next one. Okay. 3 seconds, 10 seconds, backcourt, closely guarded, basket interference, goaltending. So 3 seconds in the key, 3 seconds in the key. I usually try to tell them, get out of the key. If they stay there, stay there, stay there, they get a pass, tweet, 3 seconds in the key. So, you know, I use my voice a lot because I don't like 3 seconds in the key calls. I just don't. 10 seconds, now that girls and boys are doing the full court or front court, 10 seconds, back court. So they still all have 10 seconds to get over the court. So, you know, it's good to check in with your shot clock, make sure that your clock starts and that you're calling 10 seconds when there's 20 seconds left on the clock. So before they get over mid-court. So it's always good practice to, you know, check on that. Unfortunately, at the level that you're going to be starting out with, you won't have that. You just kind of got to count it, you know, do your 10 seconds. Go ahead to the next slide.
That's it.
Oh, that's it? Okay, so so 10 seconds and then backcourt. I guess
I'll play that.
you can go ahead and play it. See if it works. So he shoots the ball, dribbling. Okay, so he goes in the backcourt. Okay, so would that be over and back, that call? Let's see
Come on,
that again.
somebody jump in here. Be
Okay,
brave.
so the guy bumps it, right? See, does the blue ball player have possession of the ball at the time? So let's go play it. Okay, so
I'll go back to the beginning.
yeah. So look at possession. Okay, shoots. There's no player, there's no control right there, but that guy had the control in the his backcourt, and then the guy hits it off of, and then the white player has one dribble, and then it goes in the backcourt. See, dribble,
Yeah.
and then see, so he's got control at that point, right? 2 dribbles.
Yeah.
So once he goes in the backcourt and gets it, that would be over and back. That would be a backcourt call.
Yeah, these are so hard to call because all the kids are batting the ball like crazy, but White clearly had the ball and then went in the backcourt.
Yeah, you really got to see if, did they have control of the ball? Were they holding it, or did they have a couple dribbles in front court and then it went into back court? So you really look at possession. So closely guarded is within 6 feet in high school. So, you know, as long as they're 6 feet, then, or less, then we count held ball, actually dribbled and held ball on both boys and girls now. And I usually do one hand, and then if it goes to another player, or switch it when it's a held ball, 5 seconds, dribble 5 seconds, you know, I switch arms if they hold and then a dribble. And then we briefly talked about basket interference and goaltending. So if you want to play the goaltending one, that would be.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so see how the ball bounced straight up on the rim, if you could see it, and then the player tips it in? That's basket interference because the ball wasn't off the rim yet. So
Yeah, this is basket interference. I mean, the link said goaltending, but it's basket interference. The
yeah, sorry.
goaltending definition is if the ball is on a path that it can potentially go in, so it has to be above the basket, okay? And it's on its downward path and somebody swats it out of the way, that's goaltending.
Yep.
But this is clearly basket interference because the ball's still on the rim when he touches the ball.
So, you know, these are some slides that introduce you to some of our rules to basketball officiating. You know, these 2 books are, I take them everywhere I go to games, always, because there's always a conversation. Oh, what was that? And you'll look things up. So, you know, take advantage of the people that you work with and ask questions. You know, did you see that play down there? What did you think of it? You know, and let them know that you're learning and you'd really like their feedback on things, because really, you know, as much as I hated being told when I was a young official, it's taking working games to learn. And every game, and if you're a player, oh man, or a coach, it makes it so much easier because you already understand the game. You know what's a foul. So it makes it a little easier when you raise your arm, and you know, when you do the mechanics, you know, arm straight up and, you know, look strong when you're out there, you know, it makes it all believable because you're doing a job, you're selling your calls, and it's just great fun being a part of it all. So that's about it, Stace.
Okay, you guys have seen this play before. Did I play this play for you?
I don't think so.
Does this guy travel or not?
1, 2, 3.
Somebody besides
Yeah.
Suzanne, is that a travel?
Yeah, you did show us this one last time.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. It's hard to see, but he lifts his pivot foot and he puts it back down.
We could only call it in slow-mo.
Yeah, so we got to get our brains working in slow-mo so we can see this.
I tell you, you know, traveling is one of the toughest calls to make because you'll go to games, you watch NBA, and they take 4 steps and they bam, jam it, you know? So you really got to look at the rules and what the rule says, and then just watch what everybody does. But, you know, when you do a championship game, a travel matters. It could win or lose a game. So, you know, it's important to understand the rules, and there's many of us that are here to help share our expertise in it. And I'm just really grateful that you want to be a part of what we do here because it's a lot of fun.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Thank you, Suzanne. That was great. Like I said, don't forget Thursday at 6. Make sure you check out the what we're going to cover. Maybe look through your mechanics book so you can get a little flavor of what we're going to be talking about. And yeah, we'll go from there. You guys are like, we're whizzing through this course. We have 2 more rule sessions, like 1.5 more on-floor sessions, and then we'll get you a scrimmage and we'll get you some games. So, okay, that's when the fun starts. So any questions, send me an email or shoot me a text, and otherwise I'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right,
Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good
You
night.
guys.
All
Yep.
right, good night, everybody. Thanks,
Night.
Stacy.
Thanks, Suzanne. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.